You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
The AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's Get Out Alive with Bear Grylls After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Get Out Alive with Bear Grylls After Show.
I feel like this is more Lord of the Rings, which is very fitting because Get Out Alive takes place in New Zealand.
Hey, yo.
Well, good night, everyone. Oh, good night. Good evening, everyone. I'm James Wallington. Bing is for doing, and we are doing the Get Out Alive with Bear Grylls After Show for episode 2 of season 1, Living on the Edge. I'm your host, James Wallington, and with me tonight are 3 wonderful individuals.
I'm Ashley Michelle. You can follow me on Twitter at the AM Broadcast and on Instagram at the AM Broadcast.
And across from us is...
Oh, okay. I guess
I mean,
I'll
ladies first.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't want to be a little slow. I'm not on Team Lavender.
Ouch.
You can find... Well, no, my name is Stephen Lemieux, and yeah, ready to get this show on the road. Who are you, though? I don't remember.
What's up, guys? I'm Candel Bliss. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Candel Bliss.
And if you didn't already catch on, Canden is on the show with her mom, Mama Donna.
Hashtag Team Lavender.
Team Lavender.
Represented in your shirt.
We actually saw you this episode.
A lot, yeah.
Right? This was like Candel and Mama Donna's episode, for better or for worse.
I liked it, though. This was a very good episode. You know, last week started off, it was a new show, new concepts. So I think a lot of people were like, I don't know what to feel, but it was also very exciting. But this is definitely keeping the momentum strong, and I think people are going to really enjoy tonight because I know I did. I don't know about you guys.
I was already like way more emotionally involved. Like tonight was so emotional. Like it had its highs, it had its lows with multiple people. It wasn't just you guys. I mean, everybody was kind of dealing with a lot of this episode, but I loved it.
But it was emotional because now we know a little bit what to expect, so you're more like real. You're not trying so hard to be somebody you're not because you're not used to that situation like we were in episode 1. We're all like just kind of scatterbrained, but now you like know what you're in for, and so really personalities are starting to come out, emotions are starting to come out. You really are in this.
Yeah.
And so everything's really raw.
It feels so stressful. Like not like.
Tell me about it.
I just
for the viewer.
I can imagine. I feel so bad for you having to watch that.
No. I mean the people in the show, like it's a mixture of that they know what they're in for now, and the fact that like it's now 6 days. They said it's 6 days in, and 6 days without sufficient food. They're so not used to it. I mean, their probably tempers are running thin. They're probably kind of at their limit in a way. And you're going to see people get a lot more batty.
Yeah, you're not sleeping, you're not eating properly, at least the way you're used to, and you're exhausted. You're doing physical activities that you don't do on a normal day.
Well, and I think, too, even you guys had just met on the first episode. You didn't really know each other or your personalities or what people were capable of. And now you're starting to get familiar with that and who's holding you back and who's helping. So it's easier for you to, like, express how you feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is true.
And I also think, too, you guys are getting very acclimated to a completely new environment and, like, the elevations and the altitude. Like, I know a lot of people said that tonight, that this was very challenging because you guys were going up a mountain. And to adjust to that, and, like, it's just, I feel like that would be a lot to take on physically.
For Journey 2, now we're on, I mean, number one, the helicopters are amazing. Like, so much fun, but a little scary, something you're not used to, but the best way to travel. Like, highly recommended. And actually a funny story, the company of the helicopters was Aspiring Helicopters, and we were like, I'd rather you already be like a good helicopter. I don't need you to aspire to be a good helicopter.
That's good.
Then we learned we were on Mount Aspiring or Aspiring or whatever. So it settled our nerves a little bit, but that was definitely a conversation. It was like, this name is really freaking me out.
I don't want an amateur.
Right, that's what it looked like. We're like, should we do this? But it was amazing, the best views, and there was definitely one point where we came up over the ridge of one of the mountains, and they kind of like nosedived down into the valley, and it was just like you're on a roller coaster, but like the most amazing view from a roller coaster you've ever seen.
Did anyone get motion sickness from the helicopter ride?
I think one person did. I don't remember who, but one of the teams I think had to actually stop the helicopter and like. Somebody had got a little bit sick, but really scary to land on the edge of that mountain. I mean, they set that helicopter on like a rock that could have very easily just not wanted to stay there. And then you have to get out and you're like on this cliff. I mean, it's unbelievable and just breathtaking, but a little terrifying. And you're up at this high, they said 5,000 feet. By the way, we don't know at this point what we're doing or how high we are, where we are, nothing. So this is the first time for me being like, wow, we were up 5,000 feet. That's cool. Like, we didn't know. So our lungs are not, adjusting properly. And I know for my mom and I, we both had bronchitis the week before. So this was not the best situation for us. But
it's almost like you were living on the edge.
Living on the edge. The name of episode 2.
That's number 2 for you.
Whenever I see Bear, like, above you guys, like, looking down, like, they're climbing a 5,000-foot mountain with not too much air, and then they're gonna eat worms at the top. Is what I imagine he's like thinking. Then he's like, and then I'm gonna make them eat worms.
I don't think he's that conniving.
No, I just think it's cheesy. It's cute. It's funny.
It's super cheesy.
It adds to the element, because Bear Grylls' show originally was Man vs. Wild, and it was him in these situations where he kind of had this commentary every episode. So I kind of like that. It is Get Out Alive with Bear Grylls, and so he has these little snippets every now and then where he whips out his Bear Grylls binoculars and spies on you guys. He's like, I never said this was going to be easy. And I'm like, oh, Bear. So the journey starts off with you guys pulling the knives, just like last episode, and there's obstacle, shelter, fire, and food. Obstacle, you have Lucky and Louie, and I put J and C. Jeff and Chris. And then shelter, you have Esmeralda and Dominic, Austin and Jim, and then Spencer and Alicia. And then fire, Team Lavender, Donna and
2 weeks
Canden.
in a row.
And Robin and Wilson, another one of my favorites. And then also food, which was Royce and Kyle, and also R&M.
Ryan and Madeline.
Sorry, I tried shorthand and tried to live tweet at the same time.
Yeah, so you were on it tonight.
You were.
Thank you.
James is like doing my job for me, like live tweeting.
And I was like, Kyle just retweeted me. Oh, Spencer just tweeted me. So it's been fun tonight.
You're a star.
So Journey 2 starts off, and you guys are, you got dropped off by this helicopter, and then they tell you to harness up. What was that like?
Well, the hike up was scary enough, and then when we get to the top, we kind of like, you think maybe you're done, like that was already tough, and then he's like, harness up, which we knew we had the harnesses, but we're like, why? And it was really terrifying to already be exhausted, and then know that you have to pretty much like hurl yourself up this rock that may or may not, again, want to stay there. It may want to fall down the mountain with you. And the only thing holding you up are these little like hooks inside of the mountain and the other 4 people that you're attached to. And so if you fall, if those 4 people aren't strong enough to, really hold you up, you're taking a tumble and there's really nothing there to stop you.
And these are essentially 4 people who don't really know what they're doing, right?
Of course. None of us knew. I mean, we were, Bear said, all right, hook your little carabiner to these things, but there's definitely an art to it. Like, you can't hook it too soon or too quickly. Or
did you say on belay or off belay?
Yeah, a couple of us tried to do that. We tried to communicate and make it, very like mechanical thing where we were doing it like a machine so that nobody made a mistake. But I know people made mistakes. I think I made a mistake, like, because you have like 2 different ropes on you. Oof. And so you have to unhook one but not unhook the other one. So if you unhook that one, then you're off and you could just fall. It's very confusing, and you're trying to take in this beautiful view that you've never seen before, and you're like up almost, you feel like you're at the top of the world.
Right.
And so you're like, wow, this is cool. Oh crap, I have to, not fall off the mountain. So it was this real like touch and go situation where you want to embrace the experience, but you also have to be safe.
Now, Stephen, you said something very interesting tonight when we were watching. You paused it. And the first part of this is the obstacle. So you have Jeff and Chris and then Lucky and Louie kind of leading the way. But you mentioned something about how they didn't really do their task tonight. Well, and I agree.
Yeah, I mean, we have 4 people, okay? And who was your leader with your group of 4?
With my group before with Chris.
Was Chris,
to
okay.
hike to go up the rock climbing?
The rock climbing with belaying rope and everything. Okay, so meanwhile we're watching this, I don't know how much of the show they cut out or how much audio they cut out, but it seems like it was mostly just everyone was doing their own thing. We didn't have one person who was like, okay, well, let me take 5 minutes to understand this. Let me figure out that this is what we got to do. Let me tell this that we're all going to do it this way, and then let's go as a team, as opposed to, hey, I'm pulling on this rope. Oh, you're falling behind, so I'm pulling harder, and it's just a cluster F.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's an editing thing, too, because last week the main focus was the food, the deer meat. This week, it was the fire. And so it always falls on, maybe they want to show more airtime of where there was a lack of care, I guess you could say, or there wasn't much going on with it. So they wanted to play up that storyline more, for the viewers, because that's where the weak part was.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I think that the rock climbing did go as smoothly as it could have gone for people who are such amateurs at doing this. I think everybody really did try to communicate, because we're all scared. None of us know what we're doing, so you can't just try to be like a hero and do your own thing. And you can't have an ego about it. You have to really look out for everybody, because you're attached to 3 of those people. So if you're looking out for just you might get hurt anyway. And so I do think it went really well, but nobody really, one person took the lead. There was like one lead in every group. So there's 4 groups. And it got a little nerve-wracking, because I think the 3rd and the 4th groups were slower. And so 2 of our groups got through, and then the other half, and this was the first time too, I think we talked about this on the show. We didn't see it, but a lot of us talked about this was the first time we had been split up as teams. Like, I wasn't on the rope with my mom, and Spencer wasn't on the rope with Alicia, and Robin wasn't on the rope with Wilson. Maybe they were, but we were all starting to split up, and it was a little bit weird, because you're having to do this task not with your partner, so you really are kind of on your own, and you have to trust that your partner's doing what they have to do. But it was
I have to say, this is like super cheesy of me, but one of my favorite moments of the episode was when you guys all got to the top, and I think I fell in love with Spencer tonight, because he said, what did he say? I think we're closer to heaven, and I was just like, that's it.
And then,
I love him.
Robin said, I feel closer. I was like, I know Ashley's going to love this, too.
I got to disagree with you a little bit, though, James. And even with the show and how they singled out the fire team. The fire team, okay, yeah, they could have gotten out of camp quicker, but honestly, you're right. I mean, we got there anyway, right? And they got the fire started. There wasn't much need for a fire. They didn't have things that they had to cook, as opposed to just boiling the worms. And my problem is I think the shelter team are the ones who screwed the pooch this episode, because they're talking like, oh, we're on mush, like, oh, well, let's just do it like this, blah blah blah. And it's like, you're just leaving it so everyone's going to be ending up sleeping in the water. Like, I think they should have pulled everyone together, used everyone's tarp, and used like one in the center, and then overlapped them so people could actually sleep comfortably.
Yeah, right. We did actually. I don't remember who was on the shelter team, but I know they did bunch 2 teams into one shelter this time. So we started to group people together, and I think one of the shelters actually had 3 teams in it. So there was like kind of the idea to do that, but we all got wet. The ground was like a swampy sponge thing, so it was like soft to sleep on, which was good, but then you have it wet, and it's not fun.
Is your tarp not waterproof?
Not really. I mean,
okay. I mean,
the bottom, I think, was decently waterproof. You're cold because the water makes it cold, but the top, it got condensation on it, and it sagged, and so by the time we woke up, we had a tarp on our nose with like condensation water. It was nasty and miserable. I don't know how else they could have done the shelters, but it was not. It was not dry. I will say that.
See, that's cool that right now you're sitting here saying you understand that that's what they had to do. I feel like a lot, especially in this episode, I'm noticing people are like really quick to jump when somebody's doing something wrong. And I thought this was supposed to be a show where everybody's a team, like a single unit, So, I mean, I think it's really cool that you're like that, because I think throughout the episode, I don't remember who it was, one of the guys, I know Kyle at one point was like telling on your mom, and Louis was quick to.
It was actually Louis, wasn't it?
Louis was being
Lucky. Which one's which? Louis is the girl.
Louis is the girl.
Okay, Lucky
the older
was
guy. The one that was kind of like, well, we might have to speak up when Bear asked tonight who's holding us back.
True.
And I was like, this is when the game starts to take effect because people are actually thinking, who's weak? Who can I get out so I can get further?
Yeah. And I think those conversations only happen when people feel strong.
Sure.
Like if people are like, yeah, I'm doing really great, then of course you're going to feel comfortable talking bad about people that are struggling. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate that happens. I mean, we are supposed to be one unit, a team. I mean, there's definitely some competitiveness, but it's, you want to really be more competing with yourself, not competing like against the other teams on the journeys. Like, you have a task, do your task. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Just be, resourceful and helpful and encouraging. Don't tear people down. I think I don't know if it was Royce or Kyle said to me something about it's better not to tear your mom down, when really all they're doing is standing in a little corner tearing everybody else that's struggling down.
Yeah.
And so that's just my little 2 cents about that. If you want to be encouraging and tell other people to be encouraging, then you better, practice what you preach.
And FYI, your mom said that she was basically thankful that you were how you were with her, because you kept her you were pushing her. You kept her going forward.
Sometimes it's a display of tough love, and I think I saw a tweet tonight that said that from you. And
definitely.
I agree. I think sometimes it's a firmness, but it's out of love with family members.
Well, of course. And, when you reach a point where your teammate is struggling, you just saying, I know it's really crappy. Like, what are you going to do? Like, that's not going to cure anything or help
what
anything.
Incentive does that give?
Of course. Like, I did my run of being sympathetic and whatever, but, at the end of the day, if you look at your teammate and you say, do you want to go home? No. Well, then guess what? This is what has to happen in order for us to keep going, and in order for us to not be on the chopping block tonight. We have to keep going. And she would have done the same thing to me if I was, having a hard time and whining. She would let me do my thing, let me get it out, and then once that's over, you have to move forward. And it's not to say that I don't understand where you're struggling and that it's hard, but you can't just keep getting yourself down. And that's what that's his whole mantra in this entire show is negativity is your worst enemy. And if you just let it consume you, you're never going to get any further. Right. And so you have to move forward. There's a stopping point to that,
Anger is a good motivator too.
Of course.
Like, if you're like, I swear, I've the fastest mile I've ever run was a 6-minute mile, and it was just because I was super pissed off and I couldn't even think about anything except that. And you just go, and like motivation, you're just like, you stop focusing on the pain. You're like, but you still get there.
Well, and I grew up in a family of athletes and coaches, so it's like that's what you do. You have to coach people. You can't just like let them just sit on the pitcher's mound and cry. My dad would come up to the fence and be like, you have to suck it up right now. This is not acceptable. So growing up in a team, or in a family of athletes, that's just kind of the environment that we're used to.
You're a product of your home.
Of course.
I just don't like when they start viewing it as a game, because the voting is not, you don't decide who gets voted off.
Yeah.
Bear gets decided who gets voted off. So just shut up. It's basic. It kind of reminds me of The Hero of the other show, The Hero. Just be a good person and do a damn good job at what you do. And just, if you're an asshole, Bear's gonna think, okay, well, this person, he may have done his job, but he's bringing everyone down, and they're not being as well because he's affecting the team. Just be the hero, and Bear's not going to send you home. He has no reason to send you home.
Agreed. And I know last week I even said, oh, well, people aren't playing the game. Like, it's this and this. And once I saw that tonight with the scheming and, like, we're the strong ones, like, they're the ones holding us back, I was like, I don't like it that much anymore. But like, not when people get to that level, especially with this type of dynamic show. I don't think it's about being conniving and all that kind of stuff.
It shouldn't be.
No.
I mean, Bear does ask, and we said this in the first episode, like, there is a time where Bear he does say, who was the weakest link? And if he asks you, he points at you, you kind of have to be honest.
Sure.
But everybody else can see through if you're being honest or if you're being conniving, manipulative, and mean. If you're saying it because you have some weird plan of, like, getting a team to go home that really they weren't the weakest link, then I think everybody can see through that, and that just causes drama. So really the only policy is honesty, but honesty in a genuine, caring way where it's not tearing people down. I really like that at the end between Robin and your mom, because it's like, it was them. Oh no, it was you. It was us. Like, no, it was us. Like, I mean, it's genuine. You both kind of were down on their thumbs, but And that was a really interesting moment, and I know we'll get there, but like, you know, me and my mom and Robin and Wilson, like we had our tiffs, you know, a couple times, because my mom and Wilson are both very strong personalities, and they both like to take charge and like be the captains of the group, you know, and and they're from the same city in Louisiana, and so they like almost were best friends, but then they like win at each other a little
Frenemies.
bit. Yeah, a little bit. But it's funny how like in the end we end up standing up for each other, even though like there's a little bit of a, I don't know, a scuffle. I mean, I love them to death. I think when you're family, again, you fight like family, you love like family. You don't always have to like each other, but you have to love each other, and that's kind of the relationship that we have with them.
Can I ask a hypothetical question real quick? Sure. I don't want to go too far off topic at all. But with them talking about it being a game like this, how different do you think the game would be if the teams like the food team were in charge of the food itself and you had to divvy out portions and things like that? Because in a lot of survival, like simulation things where people write books about survival and people are put in a group and they have to survive together, food is one of the most controversial things, because they're like, oh, well, I didn't get enough of that, but I'm a bigger person, I deserve this much.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that could really have put in, or they might even think about putting in the next season, something that makes it more strategy and more people against each other?
Which is funny to me, because in survival situations, you can live without food. You can live without food. It's might never matter. You just can't live without water.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that could definitely be an interesting.
Yeah. They haven't focused on base camp a whole lot, and I wish that they would, because the amount of controversy that occurred at the red beans and rice bucket at base camp is probably the most drama that you will ever see on the show. The first episode, my mom and Wilson went at it because they're both from Louisiana. They both make red beans and rice at home. Like, that's their thing. And so my mom jumps in there as Mama Donna, trying to feed everybody and be the mom of the group. And then you got the captain, like, wanting to help divvy up whatever. And we did see a little bit of that with Wilson and Alicia last week. But that was definitely, like, some drama. Like, when people are hungry and you put food in front of people, they will go crazy.
They will go crazy.
And if one person gets one more bean than the other person, you can bet that we're going to hear about it. It's like... That's a huge thing. Food is the center of everybody's universe.
Well, moving on in the journey, let's talk about the fire part, because that was your task.
Round two.
What was that like? Why did you guys have to bring in? Was it Chris?
Jeff.
Oh, see, next week I will get it right.
So we had these hexamen cubes, which we'd never used before. They look really easy, and they're in these wrappers that say light the wrapper, and that's what we were told, light the wrapper. So we have our knife and our sparker, but it literally, we went through Wilson, Robin, me, and my mom. All four of us tried to spark, and we were getting sparks, and it would burn little holes in that stupid wrapper, but it wouldn't catch, and it wouldn't actually create a flame, and we were so just mentally and physically exhausted and trying so hard to build this stupid flame fire, and it just wasn't happening. No matter how many times we sparked it, it wouldn't catch. And so it's almost like we just needed like a relief pitcher to come in and like help us with the sparks. And I think because we had sparked so many holes in it or whatever, I mean, we definitely worked really hard. I don't think that Jeff could have gotten maybe a spark to light that quickly if we hadn't already been sparking it and burning it a little bit to get some of that material up towards the surface of the plastic. But it seemed to be pretty easy for him, and I don't know if it's just because he had more strength to do it, and maybe he hadn't been doing it for an hour like we had. I don't know. I hate that happened, because we really were doing everything we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
It just wasn't happening.
So what was the big difference? What did he do that ended up making
He just
it work?
kept sparking really, really quickly. He had, I guess, the burst of strength to just keep... The amount of pressure you have to put on that knife to create an actual spark is amazing. And if you have no energy, you can forget about it. You can forget about making any kind of spark on that thing. So I think he just kept sparking like 100 sparks at a time, and it finally just all, caught.
Can I ask something real quick? I keep having questions. Are you allowed to take things from one area and put them in your bag and keep them? Like, could you have saved some tinder from the first camp to use at the next camp?
Okay, so this is a big controversy for me, because at some point Bear came in, and I don't know if I can say this, but we didn't think we were allowed to use natural tinder in this area. We thought we were given this cube because we weren't allowed to
Got
use
it.
because of the drought and everything. It was
Yeah.
very like touch and go with what we were allowed to do. And so I was like, no, we can't use Tinder. Like, we have to use this. This is all we have. And then we were told, well, why didn't you use Tinder? Like, it happened tonight, or at Bears camp. Like, he was like, well, why didn't you use Tinder? I was like, well, crap. I didn't think we were allowed to. So that would have been really easy if we had just known, because we knew how to do that and create a spark, and then you put the hexagon cubes on it, and it keeps it burning longer, which makes total sense. We just didn't think we were allowed to do it. So that's like a little bit of a handicap that.
It sounds like they didn't really explain like the do's and don'ts too much before.
Yeah.
Oh, reality television.
Wait, you didn't go 100 feet that way? We had chocolate. We
Right?
had kerosene to
That'd be
light.
horrible.
If you would have just dug deeper under those roots of those plants, there was like, fruity pebbles.
The
Well,
camera,
thanks for telling me now.
the cameraman had a lighter. You didn't ask him for it?
Right. Now, what were the plants? They didn't really focus much on the food task of this.
Probably because it was disgusting.
Yeah, what was it like?
It didn't look disgusting.
I was
Oh.
excited about it, honestly. I thought it was going to taste like celery, and
Yeah.
it really did not. It tasted like furniture polish and like...
Wait, have you tasted furniture?
No, but you know the,
The smell.
the smell, like it's very strong, like a chemical smell. It almost would like make you faint. Like it was really strong. And
Wow.
we boiled it trying to like make it softer, but that just made the smell worse. And so you're like trying to drink this soupy like furniture polish water and chew on this stuff.
Did anybody get sick from that, or like
Have
have issues?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people kind of like had a headache from the smell.
Sure.
Because it was really strong.
What was it like going down? Did it burn? I mean, you said it was like chemicals.
Yeah, you just tasted the smell. I don't know if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah, like you could just like you could taste and smell it like forever. So I had some of it, and my mom had some, but it really was making us kind of sick.
Now, after eating this, were the worms kind of a dessert? Did you rather eat the worms
Well, I
over
think
this plant?
I think
or?
it was Royce that like put them over the fire and made them like noodles, and he was like,
Oh.
it's like pad thai. So I was like, ooh, I love pad thai. Let me try. It did not
Did
taste
not.
like pad thai.
Did
That
anyone
was
like crisp it? Like, can worms get crispy?
yeah.
like
They
chips, or-
dry out.
Ugh.
I would almost prefer that, I think, than the juiciness.
Yeah, it was neither were preferable.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, they didn't show me eating the stupid worms, of course. Like
That's the
Of
second.
course.
The second. They didn't in the first. They didn't
no,
show you.
I'm
or-
like, I promise I ate this gross stuff.
You're like,
Come
I
on.
did it.
We
Give me
believe
some
you.
credit.
I feel like we missed something because they didn't even show anyone eating the plant either.
No,
which-
not at all. They
No.
just showed Kyle, and I have to say he could make a really good flight attendant, giving those instructions like, if you need a plant, come find the light blue vest. We got you covered. Right over here.
Light
Exits on your
blue and
left.
teal.
I loved
That was
it.
cute.
Well, that was a really wonderful journey, and I'm sure you're super proud, and especially of your mom, too.
I was. I think, nobody's perfect, and everybody struggled on that journey. It was tough. On the way down, that mountain was tough. The accommodations weren't great. The food wasn't great. Like, everybody was having their own issues, and I think it was a miracle that we got to where we were going, and we were above the clouds. I mean, that where we ended up before we went to the survival test, I mean, just looking out and seeing, like, that cloud cover over the mountain, you're like, where are we? Like, are we really here?
Yeah.
It was really surreal and made the whole experience really worth it. And even though my mom was having a hard time and had to give her some tough love, and I hate the way that they, portrayed it a little bit, but I think in the end I redeemed my intentions. And what people may not understand is that that's like a mother-daughter relationship.
And you keep saying you're best friends, and
We
best friends do
are.
that, too.
We are best friends. We're probably more best friends than we are mother and daughter.
They gave you an arc this episode.
We have true love.
which was good.
You guys are so cute.
I mean, we fought like once.
One time.
One time.
There's only one time. But anyways, before we move on to the
Put a ring on
survival test, put a ring on it. Let me get it out. No, just kidding. Steven, do you want to tell us a little bit about Cereal Buddies?
I can tell you a little bit about Cereal. I could probably tell you a lot about Cereal
Thank
Buddies.
you,
I will
Steven.
tell you just a little bit about Cereal Buddies. Cereal Buddies is a great new movie by Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro, who are the executive producers of AfterBuzz TV. It is a fantastic comedy movie that is the likes you've never seen before. It's kind of like serial killers doing a road trip. Not as dark as Gacy,
Casey.
That's a terrible reference.
James is like,
No.
I want to see that.
It's not as dark as...
I was like, gay who?
It's not as dark as Dexter, but it's certainly kind of like a light humor, seeing people die. It's kind of funny. But we got a great cast. We got Christopher Lloyd, Beth Barris from Two Broke Girls, Kathy Lee Gifford, Artie Lang. I mean, it's got an all-star cast. You'll even see some AfterBuzzers in it. I know John Coverford makes a few appearances. Phil Svitek does too, and of course our very own Maria Menounos. So it's actually only $4.99 on iTunes.
Woo. We
will be doing a Blu-ray and DVD release sometime later this year, but until then, you can go to iTunes, search AfterBuzz TV, Serial Buddies, or just search Serial Buddies, or go to Serial Buddies like the cereal.com or serialbuddies.com, and download that shiz.
I like it. I could not have done that any better.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, but we have the website too, so you can do like cereal, like Cheerio Buddies.
For cereal. All right, moving on to the survival test this week. We saw everyone being provided with materials to make a slingshot, and Bear says, you got to make the slingshot and go ahead and utilize the slingshot to knock off skulls off this fence. What are you guys' thoughts on tonight's survival task?
I feel like none of them had a childhood because they didn't
It's
use a
super
slingshot.
fun. Yeah, like I'm from Ohio. That's like a normal thing to do. That's not like this crazy thing.
I mean, you're like the blonde girl. I'm not expecting you to have used.
Aw, can't.
No. Like slingshots are a guy's thing. Like as growing up, when you're like a 12-year-old boy, you're like, I got a slingshot. But like, I wouldn't expect you to know how to make one. Yeah. But come on, like, of course they did a good job of what Madeline and Ryan. Like Ryan did a good job on the slingshot, and Chris and Jeff looked like they got their slingshot kind of well. But what's God? I'm getting all these people mixed up.
Say a color.
The young guy with his dad.
Oh, Jim and Austin.
Yeah.
Austin's the young one, right? Mm-hmm. Austin, I figured he'd be smarter than that. I think he would be like, okay, the physics of the slingshot would be like this. I will do a severity knot that is something I learned back in kindergarten.
Well, really, it was Lucky and Austin's dad, Jim, were both like Boy Scouts or something. Yeah. Like they both knew that. I don't know about Austin, but the older men were definitely like outdoorsy men, Boy Scout type. Yeah, I'd never used a slingshot before.
What was the materials they gave you?
It was, well, we had to go find our own stick in the shape of a V.
The V-shaped stick.
Which was weird and difficult because some of them are like lopsided. And then it was like this rubber stretchy rope and dental floss.
Dental floss.
To tie it, yeah. And my problem was I like to follow directions like to the T. So if you tell me this is how you make it, and Bear had shown us how to actually make it, so I'm like, okay, we have to exactly do this. We have to cut it this way and blah, blah, which the people who ended up winning didn't make it the way that they taught us. They just were, very, they trusted their instincts and just made it however was easy and fast. And I was like, well, this is what they said to do. So I wanted to do it exactly how they said to do it.
Well, and Bear reiterated a million times in this episode and the first episode to listen to him.
Exactly.
So of course you'd want to do that.
But he also said be resourceful.
Right. Yeah, it's a catch-22 because I didn't know, like, if you don't make it the right way, do you get disqualified because you didn't make it the right way? Like, there's just a lot of questions that maybe I didn't ask that could have helped us. But
so how long was the cord? Because I feel like the dental floss is redundant. Like, you don't need it. Or did you need it?
You technically didn't need it.
Because I feel like you cut like 2 slats on the top like that and then just coming around tight like that. I don't know. I can't imagine like that.
We should have had a slingshot making contest tonight.
We should.
That would have been fun. We'll do that at some point.
I was going to bring earthworms. I thought about it last minute. I'm so mad at myself. I wanted to bring earthworms for you guys to eat. It's okay. We'll do it next week.
Well, I mean, we'll just say it now. We're going to do it.
We had gummy worms tonight.
We had gummy worms in honor of the earthworms.
So that was our prep.
Is that the initiation to be on the Get Out Alive
That's
after
step
show?
1.
Maybe,
step 1.
Canden, like every week you should do something that's kind of related to the survival test and make the 3 of us do it.
If I get a tweet Sunday night that says, hey, get a bottle and I'm just going to like...
We're going to drink our own urine tonight, folks.
You will not see me.
Stay tuned.
That would be, that'd be like top notch.
The ultimate.
That'd be like the ultimate.
Thank God we didn't have this plan to do this when episode 1 happened, because I would not drink my own urine. Sorry, people.
No.
Well, earthworms are on the menu soon.
That'll be interesting.
And I don't know where we're going to find fish
How many
eyeballs.
do we have to eat?
Just one.
Why would you ask that question?
No, because I mean they're tiny, and I figured like go
you
big
want to
or
eat more
go
than
home,
one?
guys.
Help yourself.
All right.
No, we'll give you a
whole
smorgasbord.
handful.
Go big or go home. You're gonna regret
How about
that.
like a little, just a little pinch?
All right, next week,
We
go
have to
big
have
or
more
go
than
home,
one.
Ashley.
Go big or go home.
Cooking with Bear Grylls. Add a pinch of earthworm and a little bit of non-edible plant that tastes like furniture polish.
Oh my goodness.
Obviously, I
like
could get out
witchcraft.
alive.
Wait, what?
Because I'm the one
Yeah.
that's gonna eat the most.
If you think Ashley can get out alive, comment and let us know.
Let
and
us
then we'll
know.
weigh on
Don't
next
say that.
week.
We'll not get any comments.
Wait.
You never know.
All right, let's get back on topic.
Anyway, so back to Ryan and Madeline. They made this challenge look so flawless. I mean, no one else hit off a skull off the fence other than them. Am I wrong? Or is it just...
No, you're right.
Question: Did each team have their own 2 skulls to aim at?
Yes.
Or were
That's
they,
what it seems
okay, they
like.
did. Okay,
Yeah, we did have our own.
so you didn't even get your slingshot together.
I have faith that
Negative.
you would have knocked the skull off had
See,
you made
that's
it.
the thing. I mean, if we're talking about me and my mom, every survival test, at least so far, and like the ones to come, like I know we definitely like will get out alive. Do you know what I mean? Like we will, like we would have accomplished tonight the task. It just wasn't fast.
We're missing the most entertaining part of this entire test. When your mom face plants into the mud and goes, "That's mud, everybody." And then you guys, another cut later, you're like, just learn how to think.
Yeah, start learning how to think. That was the
If
cut.
anything, you guys bring the entertainment to these survival
I
tests.
hope so.
Hilarious.
My mom keeps tweeting, Canden, you keep it smart, I'll keep it funny. like, well, so tonight I'm keeping it like mean and you're keeping it funny, but whatever. Yeah, my mom face planted in the mud after we ran through the thorn bushes. And what they forgot to air was that about 5 minutes later, after we found our stick, I knew the mud trench was there. But I'm running out of the woods and literally like mid like leap off the like bank. I'm like, there's mud right there. I go face first in the mud right after, like it was like 5 minutes after my mom, and I'm
my
like,
gosh.
I knew that was gonna happen. And, like it was, I can't believe they didn't show that because it was like pretty like Dumb and Dumber, like amazing.
that
It
would've
was
been so
perfect.
good.
You should have listened to your mom.
I know that
I
would have.
tried.
They should have edited that.
Yeah, like you
Seriously.
guys just
That
keep
way.
They
following.
may have missed it. I don't
What
know.
are these
but-
editors thinking? Skipping food challenges,
We need to
skipping
get in there.
comedic
More
gold.
comedic beats. Yeah, come on.
It was funny, but it was stressful to build that thing. And again, my mom was kind of out of it. She was like in a daze, like exhausted, and I'm trying to make it perfect, and she's trying to improvise a little bit, and it wasn't working. So we had a little bit of a, mom learn how to think.
So being a picky ninny, I guess I am.
Picky ninny.
I didn't like this challenge. Just for the fact that like the last challenge was drinking, of course, the urine with the muddy water. That is survival. Like that is okay. I can see that. But if I'm in a survival situation and I have a knife with a saw on it and I'm looking for stuff to make a weapon out of, I ain't making no slingshot.
Yeah.
True.
Like, I feel like this challenge would have been better and more people could have done it and would have made more sense if it was like, find a stick, sharpen it to a spear,
I
and
agree.
throw it so it can stick into this wall. If it doesn't stick in the wall, go get it and do it again.
Yeah.
That would have probably been a little bit better because we all did sit around the fire. Like we carved our own eating utensils. We carved our own like knives and sticks and things like that. So we did have practice doing that. And I think it would have been a little bit better for everybody to be able to accomplish it that way.
I just think the slingshot thing wasn't as fair. The first competition was, hey, can you drink this faster than the other person? And this one was, hey, go see if you can be lucky and find a stick that's that's Y-shaped.
Yeah.
And then see if you're lucky enough that you can cut it right, and see if you're lucky enough that you can make it right. I mean, it was kind of like, hey, reach in this bag and see if you get something good.
You're right.
Yeah.
It would never be your go-to.
No.
Ever.
I would never think of making a slingshot
I would
to
just
get out
take
of
a
life.
Because you
stick and
probably
chuck
wouldn't
it.
have like the
No.
rubber stuff, and there was like a leather patch to like put the rock in. Like you're not gonna have that.
And you're
in
not
the
going to carry
wilderness.
dental floss.
No.
True
You would
story.
literally take a stick
I wish
and
we
you
had
would just
dental
sharpen the
floss.
tip of it. If you were in that survival situation, you'd be very like caveman and you would just sharpen a stick.
I don't think Tom Hanks would be as famous for Castaway if he made a slingshot.
I mean,
There's a fish!
Exactly.
I mean, I wish you and your mom just like decided, screw this, make a stick, throw it at, and brother goes, You improvised. You got out to
That would have been awesome.
That would have been so
Oh my
good.
God,
That
what
would
if
have been
would've
amazing.
totally
What if I made a
acceptable?
bat? What if I made like a baseball bat and I like threw a rock and just hit it? Like
Okay.
I could have done that. I could have
What?
done that.
I don't
What
think
if?
you would have hit the
Played
skull.
softball.
That would have been awesome.
What if though?
So anyway, we find out that Madeline and
Ryan.
Ryan win this challenge, and
Yeah.
they go to the food table. And I loved how they used the little clip of the burgers with a fly like walking across the burger.
Oh, I forgot about that because I was so wrapped up on just Ryan looking so good.
He's kind of handsome.
He
They
is
all are.
so attractive.
Kind of a hunk. She's
They
a lucky
all-
girl. They're getting married in like 6 days
Oh, that's cute.
or something.
Yay.
We should make them call in from their wedding.
Why?
Oh, we should.
We should all just fly there and show up at their wedding.
Wow, what a test for your...
AfterBuzz TV covering.
Exclusive.
Obviously, they like are meant to be because if you can go through that stuff and then still want to marry somebody,
They're adorable. They really are. They're so funny together, and they're just their quirkiness that they have is they're
I
meant
feel
to
like
be.
there was a moment when Ryan actually sat down into the hot tub and he kind of looked over the camera and I bet he was thinking, oh, this sucks. Why is there a camera crew here? Like, I want to spend time with her, you know what I mean?
So I guess since we're talking about them, we might as well get into the unfortunate
Elimination.
elimination.
Should we?
Yeah.
it's time.
Do you think?
I mean,
Is it time? Are they
That
going to
got solemn really fast.
Yes, I can.
It's
Yeah,
time.
let's start chatting about the elimination.
So
Well-
who went home again?
Hold on. Bear. Okay, tonight. I don't know if you heard me chuckling by myself. I was like, Bear's camp. When he comes in and says drop your packs, I swear tonight I thought he said drop your pants. And I was like, what? I
wanna watch this show.
I'd have been like, I'm listening to
Camden,
Bear.
you didn't
Okay,
tell
I'm
us
getting
that.
out alive, taking off my pants. Okay. Now what?
Speaking of taking off your pants, Canden.
yeah.
Well
She
done on
deserves
the
a applause.
bikini.
Well done.
Yes.
Nobody else do they show in a bikini, but they're like, she's married, she's with her boyfriend, she's with her dad, and it's her. But Canden, you're with your mom. Let's throw you in a bikini. Let's just do a close up.
Yeah, like with an innocent moment, that was the only way they could do
Right?
it. It's like her and her mom, and
And
there's
they,
naked
of course, they
Canden.
missed the couple moments I wasn't in my bikini, like bathing. Like that would have been like the ultimate moment.
We have a caller.
Uh-oh.
Yay.
Hello?
Hello?
Who does B? No, thank you for
This
calling
is
AfterBuzz
Dominic.
TV. Dominic.
Hi, Dominic.
Hey guys.
This
Hi.
is Canden and my AfterBuzz crew.
Can I put you on speaker?
Yeah.
Yes.
You are live streaming right now.
You are live streaming. Is Esmeralda with you?
Well, good. I'm going to put you on speaker. Oh.
Can you hear us now?
What's up, guys? I got you guys now.
Okay.
Now we can hear you fully.
Is
Hi.
Hey, Esmeralda.
How are you?
Good. How are you guys holding up?
Horrible.
Horrible. Dominic texted me
I gotta
earlier
tell
and
you-
asked if he could cry.
Oh.
I want to tell you that watching yourself getting eliminated on national television is the worst feeling you could ever have.
Ooh.
You
Can't
guys
imagine.
handled it so well, though, with grace.
You really did.
It was graceful.
It was.
Yes.
It was. Yes, you guys were very
I was-
graceful.
I was so hungry. I literally was like, let me say bye to everybody and then stuff my face. I couldn't even think about anything else.
What did you guys eat when you left?
Everything.
What
I
was,
didn't eat one thing. I was so angry I didn't eat the entire night.
Oh, no.
what was the first thing you ate, Esmeralda?
I had a Coke and I think it was like a tuna and rice or something. I don't remember. He just shoved it at me.
And you ate whatever it was.
And I just ate it.
He gave us all these guilty pleasure things, with Snickers
Yeah.
and Coca-Cola and Butterfingers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
things
it
you
was
don't
great.
even normally eat in real life.
Exactly.
No, I would never just stuff my face with Snickers and Coca-Cola.
So we're talking about elimination in Bears camp. How were you guys feeling like going into Bears camp that night before we started talking?
I definitely knew that we were on the chopping block, but it really didn't. As time went on and he was getting on everybody else, I was like, okay, maybe we're safe. I don't know.
Oh no, I knew we were done. We're done.
But I was thinking also, I didn't perform my best, and I'm so weak. Next episode, I don't know what's going to happen. I'll probably faint.
I thought she would probably die if we went on that next journey.
So, then I was like, yeah, it's probably our time.
Why did you think why did you know that you guys were going home, Dominic?
Because, I mean, you know, what they didn't show a lot was the interaction at base camp. And I knew how we performed on that journey, how poor we did. And I know Robert and Wilson didn't do very well, and yourself and your mother, I know, struggled a little bit. So I knew it was between us three, but at the same time, after Esmeralda puking and Bear constantly asking us how we were doing, I knew we were going home. I mean, I literally, that walk to Bear's camp was the worst walk ever.
I think what really did it in was when he asked me a question and I completely was dazed out.
Ignored him.
I couldn't even
think. I didn't know what was going on.
I was gonna ask, what were you thinking about at that time? Like, were you just imagining food? Were you just so tired, or what was it?
Yeah, at that point, without eating, my mind, it was really hard to concentrate on anything that was being said. So I would start, like, hearing it, and then it would just kind of go off, and I don't know, I was like, huh, what? Like, it was hard.
She was just mad that I haven't shaved my face, and I didn't look as good as I usually look.
Dominic, you weren't cute enough. What's wrong with you? Haven't you seen Get Out Alive and Cute?
She's like, you just look horrible, and I'm hungry. I just want to go home.
So you guys were ready.
No, she was ready. I wasn't. Are you kidding me? Do you know how angry I was? They put a camera in my face after getting eliminated and asked me all these frustrating questions. I wanted to throw a brick at somebody.
So, Dominic, I got to ask, you've been, as even Bear said, you were her rock this entire show. And you guys were talking while you were eating the worms. I mean, you didn't like them or anything like that. But at the same time, that was something Bear told you guys to do. Like, you needed this energy. And of course, Esmeralda, you were so sick to your stomach, like a headache, because you were famished, you were malnutrition. Why didn't you just suck it up and eat the worms? Like, and Dominic, couldn't you have just been that rock and shoved them down her mouth and made her eat them?
I actually did eat some of the worms. I had probably like 4 or 5 of them. Not enough, definitely not enough. But I think it really did it for me was the Spaniard root. Just the smell of that just made everything so unappetizing. I was like, I can't do it anymore. And also in the back of your head, you're like, okay, you know, eventually we're heading to camp and there'll be some beans and rice, so maybe I can make it to then. But
I told her, I mean, of course we had the conversation, baby, you need to eat these worms. I crushed some worms. But at the same time, my wife, she doesn't want to eat worms. I can't force them down her throat. She'll stab me one of the like, there's no way. She doesn't want to eat the worms. She's not going to eat the worms, you know? Like, it was.
I tried. I did try them.
She tried, like she said, 4, but these were little tiny it was like chewing on dirt. They weren't bad at all. I mean, you just shove them in your mouth and you chew on them. It's like a bunch of jelly. It wasn't anything. That Spaniard root, Canden hit it on the head. That tasted like furniture, just polish and liquor. Oh, it was just
like nail polish remover.
You would think a plant can't taste that bad.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you guys agree, because I was telling them and trying to explain it, and they couldn't really grasp what I was saying, but it was rough. That was way worse than any bug or fish eye that we ate. Like the Spaniard root, even though it looked innocent, it was not.
And then Bear goes, hey, just heat it up and boil it. It'll be fine. And then that would taste like hot furniture polish.
It was better raw. I wish we had not boiled it. I think it was definitely better raw. And I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know why we boiled so much. But, yeah, you hit it on the head, though, Esmeralda. I'm curious because in my mind, too, like, I tried to eat as much as I could. But really, in the back of your mind, I think everybody really is thinking, how much of this do I really have to eat in order to keep going? Because I know we are going back to base camp probably tomorrow, and we will get at least 2 or 3 bites of beans, and like that makes you feel a little bit better. So it is kind of that mental game again. And do you think that like affected anybody besides yourself?
Yeah, another thing was, I thought that would be the case where I could just not eat as many worms and I'd be good with the beans and rice. But once we got back and we did the beans and rice, I could not eat them for a second time. I don't know what it was, but I guess just like the no taste, if you've ever had beans and rice with nothing on it, it tastes like absolutely nothing.
There was no salt, no pepper. There was nothing.
It's like river water and beans and rice and seasoned with a little bit of dirt from the stick that we stirred it with.
Yeah, we haven't brushed our teeth for days. I mean, it was disgusting.
Yeah, so that didn't really help, and I was like, man, I really should have eaten more.
There was a lot of different variables and all that stuff, man. I mean, it's not like, okay, cool, beans and rice, here we go, let's crush it. Like, I don't want to eat those beans and rice. I was miserable. My wife was miserable.
And we were also picking up, like, little things off the ground that we could eat, like little flowers, and it was like rose hips and some other stuff. And, yeah, it tasted good at first, some of them, but, I mean, I think it was really getting to my stomach. I just couldn't do it.
Some of that stuff is harsh. Yeah, we haven't talked about the rose hips. We boiled rose hips, which are like they're like kind of a little citrusy looking fruit, but they have like fiberglass on the inside that you have to like scrape out in order to eat them, or it'll like burn your throat and make you itch.
Wow.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. How much rose hips? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say one of the biggest things with the rose. I was sitting here and I go, this is the perfect way to lose weight, because all I wanted to do was lose maybe 20 pounds. And being on this show, I said, man, if we can last 4 weeks. And, of course, the 500,000 would be great. But I'm pretty sure if I can trim up and lose 20, 25 pounds, that would be perfect.
How much did you ultimately lose when you got home?
Oh, no, I gained it all back in the hotel room immediately.
Yeah. Immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, immediately. I lost probably 7 pounds, maybe 10 of water weight. And I literally crushed everything I possibly could in 3 days in New Zealand.
Yeah.
You guys are funny.
I only lost probably 5.
So were you guys disappointed? Because we were kind of disappointed that they cut out the Spaniard root, any footage at all of anyone eating it.
Yeah.
Like, what did you think of the way they edited this episode?
There was one part, I think, when Spencer had eaten the Spaniard root, and something happened where he was, like, choking on it, or something to his throat, and we thought, oh, my gosh, it's like, is he having an allergic reaction? We had no idea, and they didn't put that in there, and I was really surprised.
They didn't put a lot of things in there, and the editing is editing, I mean, you have 20 hours of footage a day that you're cutting down into, an hour, but...
I think they did all right.
I think I was surprised. I think viewers probably weren't expecting you guys to go home, because the way they edited me and my mom in this episode, it was I was like watching it going, are they going to send us home tonight? Like,
I'm like, oh man, maybe Donna and Canden go home. That would be great.
Yeah, it crossed my mind too.
I will say this, though, with the editing, I think they did a good job, because, Esmeralda, you were sick in the first episode and this one, and they could have made you look like you were being a big baby, but they didn't. They just showed you being sick, and you were a trooper.
I know, thank God, because there were some points on the mountain where I was just cursed up a storm. I was crying. I was so miserable, and I was expecting them to show all of that, and they really didn't show too much. So I was like, okay, thank you for saving me, saving us a little bit of my dignity.
Well, thankfully, I feel like their intention so far is not to make us look bad. It's like, and I think I said this a lot on the last episode, but Bear said over and over, are you reacting abnormally in a normal situation, or are you acting normally in an abnormal situation? And I think that's really true. It's not like people are like crying and being exhausted by this sitting there doing nothing in a situation that they're used to. You're put in this element that you have no idea what's going on. You're in conditions that you're not used to, and your body handles it differently. And you're emotional. You're a woman, Esmeralda. I'm a girl. Like, we handle things differently. And so I think you guys did a great job.
And I'm really not one to, I'm not the person who works out a lot, and I know I need to work on it, but I went into this, not really going to the gym, not running, nothing. So all of a sudden putting me in a situation with all this endurance and, the not eating on top of that, it was pretty hard. But, it's kind of a kick in the butt. I'm like, you know what, now I think it's time to get my act together, start working out, just build a better life as far as my physical being.
I mean, they downplayed the physical element to us when obviously we were being casted for the show. They said, listen, guys, anybody can do this. It's not a big deal. But you definitely saw right away Royce and Kyle, they were definitely some of the most fit out of all the groups, and they obviously dominated on the trail. So right off the bat, I kind of thought that sucked because, you know, we're not so much physically fit, and these guys are killing it, so of course they're going to look much better, you know?
Was the experience a test for your relationship at all?
Oh,
that's an understatement.
yeah, it was pretty intense. I mean, once we got home, we were like, wow, you know, that was a crazy experience. You know, what do we do next? I don't know. I mean, there was definitely a lot of things that went on, but I mean, we're a strong couple, and
it made us stronger. We knew it would make us stronger, but there was definitely those few conversations that we had together where I got frustrated with her because I thought that she did have more in the tank, but at that same time, I knew how bad she was hurting. So it's a fine line for a husband to kind of walk against. Like, can I really yell at you and tell you how mad I am, or should I just say, listen, baby, you know, it's okay. You know, you did great. So it was tough.
Well, if you did yell at her, if you talked to her like Canden did to her mom, I'm sure Royce would have something to say about it.
Yeah, leave it to Royce.
Leave it to Royce and Kyle to say something about it.
He's like, is that really your spouse?
I thought Candel was about to pick up a rock and throw it at her mother.
That wasn't that bad.
Did they edit that out, Canden?
Yeah, I just chunked a big boulder.
They edited Canden beating her mom.
Right. No, I mean, that was tough love at its best. And like, my mom's texting me right now and she's like, do you want me to call in and tell them how I feel? Because I think, you know, people don't understand when you're like in a best friend situation, you know, sometimes you got to give tough love, and you can let somebody whine and pitch a fit to a certain degree. And then you either have to let them drown, or if you care about them, you have to find some way to pick them up. And if, you know, coddling them and mothering them doesn't work, then you have to throw a little tough love and make them competitive and angry if that's what it takes, like Steven said. Thankfully, you guys didn't have to get to that point. We did. So,
a few more journeys, you would have been there, trust me.
Well, thank you guys so much. Do you guys have any more questions?
Oh, you guys are great, and it was a pleasure watching you guys on your journey with this entire adventure.
Yeah, you're amazing. Thank you so much.
What was your?
Thank you, guys.
I got one last question. Out of everything you did on this show, what is the one thing you remember for the rest of your life?
Ooh.
Oh, that's a good
Man,
question.
I would say the whole thing, but to break it down, the helicopter ride. That was my first time in a helicopter, going over the most beautiful terrain I've ever seen in my entire life. So I would have to say that.
All right.
Okay. The helicopters were cool. The one thing that I would take is meeting a bunch of people just like us that had no idea what we were doing just like us, and watching all their reactions was awesome. I mean, yeah, that was it. The social interaction was definitely what I would take from it.
Sure, you become one dysfunctional family.
Yeah, well, this is a follow-up.
Like, I found myself caring about these people that I never met before in my life, and they were going through the same exact thing that my wife and I were going through, and I loved it. I absolutely loved that element.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question. Is just like, I know, you know, when you see the episodes, nobody's really bashed anybody necessarily or thrown anybody totally under the bus, but like, if somebody had, you know, how do you think you guys would take that? Like, is it something where you're kind of letting things go under the bridge, or, you know, do you hold grudges, or...
I would take it personal. I mean, I would definitely take it personal. You don't have to bash people on this show. That's what I don't understand. When Bear says, who's the weakest link, it's nothing personal. You know, like Dominic and Esmeralda, you guys are the weakest link. That's not bashing somebody. But when you start verbally and aggressively going after them, that's unnecessary. All you got to do is say, listen, they didn't do this, and they should have. End of story. You don't have to go into these crazy details and get personal, you know?
All right, so from this episode, who do you think's going home next week?
Man, I have who do you think?
I'll say Spencer and Alicia.
What?
What?
Right.
Yeah, Spencer and Alicia. No, because they kind of, I don't know, like they've been flying under the radar.
Not me?
They're really... What?
Not me, my mom.
No, because I feel like Bear wants to see you guys grow. And the same thing with Robin and Wilson. I feel like Bear wants to really see them go, and the other teams, you know, I don't know. It's just a thing. After watching the first two episodes and knowing them personally, nothing personal. I just feel, I don't know, maybe they've been kind of flying under the radar.
Maybe it's gonna get to Alicia pretty soon.
You think in a similar way that it got to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did show her
probably.
crying for next week.
Mine was more of a physical, where I was like, I was throwing up. Everything was just wrong as far as my physical feeling. I think maybe it might be a little bit more mental for Alicia.
She was definitely unstable is not a good word. She was definitely emotionally vulnerable. She got very sad at a lot of different times, and I just feel maybe it'll get to them on the next episode. I don't know.
All right.
Well, thank you guys for calling, and we definitely appreciate
thanks for
hearing your
staying up.
insight.
They're in Miami, so they're staying up really late for us.
So Miami's crazy, so we stay up until 5 a.m. here.
And there are plenty of bugs to eat if you get hungry.
All right. Jeez.
Guys, thank you. Your show's awesome.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Well, since they dabbled in predictions, we might as well go straight into that, yeah?
Let's do that.
Let's do it. Oh, yeah.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
All right, I think Steven should go first this week because I went last week.
All right, and as Canden says, ladies first, right?
All right. Yeah, exactly.
I think that Louie and Luke are going home next week.
Louie and Luke?
Louie and Lucky.
Louie and Lucky.
It's his nickname.
Yeah. I think they're going home next week because I think we saw a little bit of it this week where they're being a little bit conniving. And I think that's going to really show through that people are going to get annoyed with it. Last week, of course, I said Robin and Wilson, but they almost went home this week, but I was wrong. But yeah, I think it's going to be those two. And
you
I
guys
think
going to high five?
Huh?
Oh, yeah, we want a high five because we predicted, unfortunately, but it's a sad prediction, but we got it right.
Well, we got it right, and we wore red tonight.
In honor.
In honor of Team Red.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you say Lucky and Louie.
Yeah, I think they're going home, and I think probably the next people to win the feast bucket or whatever it's called.
Feast pit.
Feast pit, that's right.
But if they win the feast pit, they don't get to go.
No, I don't think they're the next people. I'm saying the next people to win the feast pit are probably going to be, I'm going to say Royce, and I think they're going to shove it in people's faces a lot.
Ooh.
I could see that.
Ashley, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I like your spin, how, you had mentioned Bear, well, Dominic actually had mentioned Bear wanting to see Robin and Wilson succeed. But this is a second episode where there's been some issues and some struggles. And as much as I don't want to see them go home, I like your spin on, the conniving people.
I just think it's too obvious for Robin Wilson.
Yeah.
The previews are just making us think it'd be too obvious to send them home.
Here's the thing, though. That also pulls on your heartstrings a little bit. You get attached. You want them to succeed. And sometimes, it's a sad ending. So unfortunately, I'm going to say Robin and Wilson are going home.
I would have to disagree with you this week. Sorry, Ashley. I think Dominic made a really good point. I think Robin and Wilson, and I think you and your mom, do have a really good storyline. And I do believe that Bear really wants you guys to succeed. So I think we'll see a little bit more life in you guys for a few more episodes. I do have to agree with Dominic and Esmeralda. It's a tongue twister to say her name. But I do think that Spencer and Alicia very well could go home next week because, again, I think she is kind of losing it. She's cried every episode so far, and that next week Bear even said on the previews that it's one of the harder journeys, and they show her crying again, and I think it might get to the point where she's like, I'm done.
I just had a small epiphany, and either what I said might happen, or Robin and Wilson will be the ones that make that huge mistake, but they win the challenge and they have immunity and can't go home.
Good call.
Boom.
Steven, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Stephen Lemieux, STPHENLEMIEUX, or on Instagram at SRLemieux, or here doing the Graceland Twisted Get Out Alive with Bear Grylls after show this one, and the Dexter Sundays at 7 p.m.
Canden.
You guys can find me at Candel Bliss on Instagram and Twitter. I almost said, and what's the other one? And my mom is shouting out, hello, everybody, Mama Donna OMG on Twitter, and she says hello, and she's texting me angry messages about how they made me look.
We love you, Mama Donna.
Ashley.
You can find me, Ashley Michelle, at the AM Broadcast on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm James Wallington, and I'm shamelessly promoting myself. If you guys are a fan of reality television, make sure you tune in to CW's Capture Wednesday, July 31st at 9 p.m. I'm competing alongside my sister. We're the Lime Team, Team Wally, and you can find me on Twitter at James Wallington, Wallington. And until next week.
Reality star.
Yes. And until next week, have a good one.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.